Haseeb, are you okay? Haseeb, do we need to get
I'm not
get
doing
you a
well.
therapist?
I'm not doing well.
Like a
Yes, we do.
decentralization therapist?
Please, please.
Who is a
Okay, so
decentralization therapist for you? Vitalik. You and Vitalik need to go on a 10-day hike.
Vitalik doesn't have the EQ though. No, I need somebody with a softer touch than Vitalik. Vitalik's a little too hard for me.
Not a dividend.
It's a tale of two Kwan.
Now your losses are on someone else's balance sheet.
Generally speaking, airdrops are kind of pointless anyways.
Unnamed trading firms who are very involved.
Vitalik.eth is the ultimate Ponzi.
DeFi protocols are the antidote to this problem.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Chopping Block. Every couple of weeks, the four of us get together and give the industry insider perspective on the crypto topics of the day. So quick intros. First, we got Tom, the DeFi maven and master of memes.
Hello, everyone.
Next, we got Robert, the crypto connoisseur and czar of Superstate.
Salutations.
Next, we got Tarun, the Giga Brain and Grand Poobah at Gauntlet.
Yo.
And finally, I'm Haseeb, the head hype man at Dragonfly. We're early stage investors in crypto, but I want to caveat that nothing we say here is investment advice, legal advice, or even life advice. Please see choppingblock.xyz for more disclosures. So we finally got the gang back together. It feels like crypto once again is humming, and we are now seemingly out of this Bitcoin consolidation cycle. Bitcoin's at pretty close to an all-time high. It's roughly in the order of 110K, kind of bouncing around up and down, but alts are finally starting to move again. And kind of on cue, alongside alts moving, we have a gigantic hack that is now worth talking about. So this hack took place on Sui. Sui, of course, has been one of the standout winners of this cycle, has been growing like crazy. And the main DEX on Sui is a protocol called Cetus, C-E-T-U-S. So Cetus is a concentrated AMM liquidity protocol. It's a DEX. You can trade random tokens on Sui. And Cetus was hacked using a bug in their smart contract math library. So this smart contract, basically what happened, it was a flash loan-based attack. There was some bug around them trying to check the wrong byte length on the integers they were using. So instead of using 256-bit math, it was supposed to be 192-bit math, or maybe vice versa. Whatever, it doesn't really matter. Point is, the hacker was able to hack $223 million. And using the hacked funds, they started bridging them over immediately to move them into Ethereum to start trying to get away with the money. But not so fast. Sui validators decided to freeze the accounts of the smart contract hacker to make it so that all other Sui protocols could continue operating and all other addresses could continue operating, but the validators would quote unquote agree to ignore transactions from the hacker. So this basically means that the validators agreed to freeze the accounts until further notice. Right now, the accounts are still frozen. No decision yet on what the validators are going to do until they come together with governance and decide to stop ignoring transactions from the attacker. So far, there's 162 million of that 223 million. So the majority of it is still sitting frozen on Sui. And as a result of this, there was a lot of people getting angry on Twitter saying that, hey, this is centralization. This is not the way the blockchain is supposed to work. There was also accusations toward the team that they were responsible for another protocol before on Solana, which also was a concentrated liquidity AMM that also suffered a similar kind of flash loan style attack based on some bug in the smart contracts. So all in all, seems like a very messy situation in Sui land. You saw a large drawdown in Sui assets that has since partially recovered, and Sui as a protocol has mostly recovered the losses since this hack took place. But the hack is still sitting there on chain. The hacker's still trying to get their money out. And I think there's a negotiation going on to try to get at least the hacked funds out in exchange for a $5 million bounty, but that has so far seemingly not been claimed. So that's the high level. What are your thoughts so far on this hack and what it means for this whole situation about, I remember it was a few years ago, there was a big hack on Blast and people were talking about, would it make sense for the bridge to freeze the stolen funds and basically play a vigilante or try to come in there and make the people whole who'd gotten hacked. This is the reality that we were talking about hypothetically at that time, which is that they have the hacker red-handed. They're holding on to the money. They're not letting the hacker go. What should be done here? And is it time to just go ahead and play it forward and say, look, this is not the Wild West anymore. These are not the days of the DAO. You just do the right thing when the right thing is available to be done? Or do we feel like, hey, this is a norm that's going to lead to more and more of an on-chain quote unquote police state? And that's going to be the reality going forward. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, this is kind of a throwback conversation, right? This was a very popular conversation in 2016, 2018, 2019, and we haven't been having it as a community as much recently. And that's because, over time, because most of the DeFi activity and most of the hacks were sort of centered on Ethereum for the most part, there was no rollback, right? There was no freezing. There was no chain level response and mitigation. And because in some ways Ethereum outgrew it, right? Like if there's a hack of a DeFi protocol today on Ethereum, nothing's happening besides the protocol itself or the application has to deal with it. And so, I think society in general has settled on the fact that L1s should be decentralized as much as possible and not really in the business of censoring specific addresses, specific transactions, and being responsible for figuring out where to draw the line. Because it's a slippery slope and it starts off relatively easy. Like, this is obviously a bad guy. This is obviously a hacker. This is obviously, someone that should be stopped. But, what an end user wants from an L1, what an application developer wants from an L1 is a transaction environment that is completely predictable. And the rules are extremely clear. And when you start getting into, hazy rules about how consensus operates or how address censorship operates, it's less appealing to build there. And so I think the result of all of this is that they'll figure it out. They'll figure out what to do with the funds. They'll figure out how to get it back. They'll figure out how to negotiate with the guy. They'll do all of that stuff. And either they outgrow censorship as a chain permanently, or it becomes a part of the culture. And it's like, hey, if you do business here, just understand that we have the ability to have the validator censure users, applications, use cases, whatever. And so I think they'll go.
Do you think it was a mistake, or you think like, hey, you're on training wheels, you're an early ecosystem, this is the right move?
Well, I mean, it was the largest application on the chain, right? I mean, it was equivalent in that respect to the DAO on Ethereum back in the day, right?
Kind of, right? In absolute terms, it's not that much of the market cap of Sui, whereas for the DAO, it was like 8% of all ETH or something like that in the DAO. So it was in the DAO, it was like, this person is going to forever be part of the footprint of Ethereum. Whereas in this case, like literally the guy was just trying to dump this Sui and get into Ether.
Totally. So I think they'll solve this. I think at the end of the day, if they don't get back into the business of censoring, addresses, this will sort of go away. It'll be water under.
But do you think right decision or wrong decision? What's your verdict?
Personally, I think wrong decision. I think you want a culture of absolutely robust transactions and validators that don't have to be listening for special instructions manually in response to crises. So I kind of think it's the wrong direction personally, but both outcomes work.
I will say I was in a Sui group chat and I made a joke about Sui Classic and no one understood it. So
that's so sad.
You know what I mean? It's like the whole generation of people who use Sui probably don't know what Ethereum Classic is.
Do you want to explain that joke for those in the audience who don't get it?
Yeah. So when the DAO happened, there was a fork of Ethereum called Ethereum Classic, which still exists and in fact has exchange traded products.
No, it was not the fork of Ethereum. Actually, current Ethereum is the fork. That's
Ethereum,
right. That's right.
The current Ethereum is the correct. Current Ethereum is the fork that removed that DAO hack. But then there was a group that wanted to keep the DAO hack in and not censor, and it still continues to this day under the ticker ETC. And it's certainly one of the boomer coins that you see at like. Sometimes you will see like ETC on like CNBC or Bloomberg or something, and you're like, why is that getting listed on the TV screen? But it's like a non-trivial market cap coin. I don't think it has any real usage. The last time I remember hearing anything about ETC was, if you remember, around the Ethereum merge when Ethereum switched to proof of stake. There were all these people who were like trying to avoid doing it. That was like led by a bunch of old Ethereum Classic miners. But anyway, my point is, no one got the joke. So I think crypto does have this funny thing where like,
does this mean we're getting old, Tarun? That might be what that means.
The lessons just keep getting relearned. You know what I mean? Like. There's no like collective memory in decentralized systems, which can sometimes be bad.
Well, but I want to know, because you're closer to the Sui. You guys are investors in Sui, if I'm not mistaken, yeah? So you guys are closer to the Sui world. Is there, like, my perception of this is that it's not actually like Ethereum and Ethereum Classic, because with Ethereum and Ethereum Classic, there was this real philosophical rift at the center of the community. And my sense is that there's a lot of people on Twitter saying like, oh my God, how could you do this? Like the kind of sentiment similar to what Robert articulated. But my sense is that people within SWE are not feeling like that's not happening within SWE. That's like an outsider thing of people saying like, oh, screw you. People in SWE are like, yeah, that was the right answer. Of course, we should get the money back and like not let our ecosystem fall into the ocean.
I think you're probably correct, although I don't think it's like uniformly accepted in SWE, but I do think it's more the majority probably agrees with that sentiment.
But is there like a civil war happening within SWE? Because I don't sense that that's happening.
I don't see, yeah. In fact, it seems like everyone's pretty unified and like we need to spend more on security, right? Like this Miston and a bunch of projects like announced they're like spending more on security. Miston, I think, is going to now sponsor audits for like every sufficiently big protocol and stuff like that. So I think actually the interesting thing is the response I thought was actually quite good of like, hey, we're going to spend more on security, which you don't often see in response to hacks. Like exceptions are like Euler Finance, right? Where like they got an incredible number of audits after their hack, right? But like that's a rarity. There's a lot of hacks where the hack happens and someone just hits restart and they don't really update stuff. And so I think like I thought that was like an interesting community response. So yeah, that's sort of the vibe I got also. But there are people who I think are a little militant about it. Actually, the interesting thing was like everyone who was complaining about the censorship that I observed was like an Ethereum or Solana person. Like I didn't see that many like people who had .swe in their username complaining, which is like what you're saying. But
that goes to the collective memory. I mean,
yeah.
Tom, what's your take?
Yeah, I guess maybe a point of clarification. Is it that basically the validators, and so you've been updated to the leader rejects transactions from this address, or is it literally like every single client is rejecting any block that has a transaction from this address? Because if it's the latter, I mean, I feel like you've basically done a fork already, versus the former. I mean, that's a little bit kind of what happens in Ethereum land with Mev Boost, right? Of hey, we're gonna block all OFAC addresses from sending transactions to this builder. And yeah, I mean, granted, if you're already on the network, you're going to accept those blocks, but it's difficult to even get in. I think it's only like 8% of blocks.
I mean, clearly it's not that, because if it was that, then the attacker would already be home free, right? Because
yes.
Not a super majority. Yeah. If it has to be the rejecting blocks that include transactions from the attacker.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you basically forked already then, right? Like,
you're also sort of forgetting that SWE has 3 slot finalization. So like once you think about the finalization, that's like you only really need 3 slots to be fully done. So I think like that. In fact, this is an interesting thing that I hadn't quite thought about, and I guess Cosmos people were not very good at articulating like the benefit of finalization. Is that like you don't have to think about the arbitrary fork length stuff that you're describing.
Yeah, I did see some good memes of it's like the hello human resources meme, but it's for the hyperliquid hacker versus SUI. And I do think it is, I mean, obviously there's like bag holder bias, where I think a lot of people who were pro hyperliquid were just large pipe holders. And if anything, that was less egregious. An example, it wasn't even like a hack. The system wasn't even at fault. It was like an HLP loss. But I think it was kind of lauded. And it is like, it feels like there's been like a little bit of a loss of, I mean, kind of this like cypherpunk philosophical ethos where Ethereum DAO hack, I think was the right decision, but it was, like I said, it was very contentious. Maybe the stuff is slightly contentious, but I don't even get the sense it's nearly as contentious as the original DAO hack was. It's basically just people who have the token being supportive of whatever is going to be long-term good for the chain, which in this case, I guess, is rolling back hacks or rolling back bad trades or freezing funds.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think SWE very much follows in the footsteps of Solana here, which is this embrace of the shifting Overton window around what is an emerging ecosystem or emerging L1 supposed to look like, how it's supposed to behave, how muscular it's supposed to be, how much are they supposed to choose favorites, and kind of be like the ethos of Ethereum back in 2015 is so unrecognizable from what emerging L1s look like today. It's just like the wrong comparison to say, what Ethereum was doing back then compared to what a new L1, a challenger L1 is expecting to behave like today. The interesting thing though, if you rewind back to the history of Solana, even Solana in the heyday when Solana was getting criticized for being centralized, remember what was the bridge? Wormhole hack. The wormhole hack was in the billions. And they were just like, yeah, we're just going to fill the hole. This was 200 million in a protocol that's I think was worth more. Like Sui, I believe, is worth more than Solana was worth at the time that the wormhole hack took place.
But
And they
the
were just
hole
like,
was
well, of course you
filled.
filled the hole.
The hole
Jump.
with wormhole was filled by Jump. It wasn't filled by the
Right,
Solana
right.
blockchain. The Solana
It was filled by Jump,
Foundation.
although I would bet that there was a little more to that story than just.
Oh, I'm
Jump
sure
by
there's stuff
themselves
that
filling
people
the
don't
hole.
know.
Yeah.
Well,
No, almost certainly if that amount of money was...
I thought they also... Do you remember the Jump lawsuit in the UK over the Oasis hacker, where they were able to there was sort of some very weird censorship?
Oh yeah,
that somehow that's related to the wormhole hacker, and I think they recovered some. I wish I this was the 2022 haze of FTX blowing up, so my memory is not so great, but there was something related to the... Yeah.
This whole episode is like 4 VCs who are super old, trying to...
Yeah.
Well,
The chopping boomer.
I
remember
the chopping boomer.
100% is what's going on right now. But so, okay, I guess the question is the fact that this is, it really, it feels to me, I mean, I could be wrong, but it feels to me like this is a old versus young thing of how much people care about this, right? For me, I'm like, this is the most interesting thing that happened this last week is the philosophical underpinnings of this conversation feel so different than what I remember them being, right? Even with the blast hack, when that was hypothetical. They didn't actually have the time to go in and freeze the bridge, to freeze the attacker. And that was for an L2. That wasn't even L1, right? And that was fucking, it was a multisig. So the whole argument about blast was well, it's a multisig anyway. You might as well own the fact that it's centralized. In this case, it's an L1. It's supposed to be decentralized. It's supposed to be a set of validators who are not able to just get together in a Zoom call and say, hey, let's freeze this guy right now, screw this person. They were able to react very quickly to this hack. And overwhelmingly, I'm just maybe I'm just out of touch. Maybe this sense that I have that these kind of decentralized, neutral, cypherpunk values that I'm in a way, it's probably important to get a gut check on that of am I just fucking totally lost in this conversation that I think people think the way they did 5 years ago? And if they don't at all, that's an important update to make as an investor, is that, yeah, you should actually expect that there's a put on a major protocol from an emerging L1. And that will be true whether it's on Aptos, whether it's on Monad, whether it's on whatever, any new L1, you should expect that there's built-in insurance into the protocol. Is that the world that we live in today? And should we all just kind of assume that that's correct instead of walking around pretending that it's not? You know what I mean? The answer to this question is actually really important.
I think the answer to this question is, yeah, I think the values have definitely shifted. Part of it is the expectation of better UX at a trade-off for decentralization. I think fundamentally people getting used to single sequencers and UX that resembles Web2 apps, and inevitably means that people are willing to take more trade-offs than they were 5 to 7 years ago. And yeah, I guess the chopping boomers, you're you're learning via podcast that this might be true.
Yeah, I think this is something that's been in decline for a long time. Even Ethereum, right, was sacrilegious, or the idea of, hey, not running, your own node or front end or software. And you get these sort of point in time, I think, reality checks. And this is just sort of...
Do you remember when Eric Wall would be can I run an archive? Every month he would write a Twitter thread of him trying to run an Ethereum archive node.
I remember that.
How far
I don't see anyone being oh no, I have to reload a proof of stake blockchain from a checkpoint. I can't load from Genesis. I don't see anyone complaining about that, for instance.
Yeah. And so maybe that really should inform the way you think about blockchains. And maybe it should even inform the way that validators think about validating blockchains, is that hey, if there's a big hack, you kind of need to have the ability to do what Sui just did. Is this the beginning of the process under which it's not just that, hey, there's a big hack. It's that, hey, guys, new sanctions just dropped, or law enforcement just hit up all the validators. And
in a world where there's more RWAs on chain, isn't this inevitable?
The RWAs themselves, obviously, they can enforce a blacklist, right? But what we're talking about is very different.
I agree, but I sort of think if RWA issuer, you in fact have written this blog post a long time ago about Ethereum being unforkable effectively due to oracles and RWAs. And if their size is so much larger than the main chain, then they kind of control some of the censorship properties indirectly. there's a lot of people who I know who disagree with you, and I see you every once in a while fighting with someone on the internet about it. But I think that there is a lot of truth to your post, and I think arguably when the validators do this, they are more like that, right? It's like closer to that in some ways, and I think that's sad. But I think the nice thing about crypto is there's tons of chains, so you can go find a chain that is not that if you want.
So it's like years 2030, like the DOJ has a direct line to every validator Discord and every single thing. And the moment they see a bad hacker, boom, transaction just gets uploaded directly into their blacklists.
Pretty sure Doge cut that.
Just getting frozen.
Doge cut the Discord account subscription, so they probably can't do that.
You think so?
Well, speaking of the DOJ, do you see the judge vacated the Eisenberg Mango Markets thing?
Oh yeah, that was crazy.
So maybe code is law actually.
But
he's still in jail because of he's still in jail
for CP.
Child
still
porn.
in jail for CP. Yeah. So he's I think it was just a procedural issue.
Yeah, there's nothing about that case that was like, this is just such a nice person. How could he be stuck in jail?
Oh, jeez. Okay. All right. So speaking of, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask, why was it vacated? Did anyone read this sort of?
It was vacated because of jurisdiction, because he had no nexus in New York. So they brought the case to New York, but he was in Puerto Rico. He never stepped foot in New York, and they had some bullshit thing of like, oh no, there are Ethereum nodes in New York.
Got it. Mango Markets was in the cloud, and New York is in the cloud.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Something like that. Anyway, okay. Speaking of other ways in which we have fallen as an industry, last week we had
Haseeb, are you
Trump
okay?
National Golf
Haseeb,
Club
do we need
dinner.
get you a therapist?
I'm not doing well.
Like a decentralization therapist?
Please.
Who is a decentralization therapist for you? Vitalik. You and Vitalik need to go on a go hike. You go on a
Vitalik
10-day
doesn't have the EQ
hike.
though. No, I need somebody with a softer touch than Vitalik. Vitalik's a little too hard for me.
Who do you think can lead you to the path of lightness?
I don't know, man. I what I need is I need a good Eric Voorhees just pep talk. That's what I need. Maybe we should get Eric Voorhees on next week and get him to talk about the crypto values and get all these youngsters to listen to what we grew up on instead of listening to fucking Ansem and meme coin hawkers. Anyway. All right, so let's talk about the Trump. Let's talk about the Trump dinner. Let's talk about the Trump dinner. Hold on, we got a limited schedule. We got to get through this. All right, let's talk about the Trump dinner. So, as you well know, people who hold the Trump token for long enough, for some period of time, they were invited to a Trump National Golf Club dinner. This was for 220 top Trump token holders. They met in DC. Trump arrived via Marine One, stayed for 20 minutes, gave a campaign and crypto speech. Trump token dropped 16% the day after the event. Senator Elizabeth Warren called it an orgy of corruption, which now there's a lot of reporting about the actual dinner itself. There were some protests going on outside. It was very, very controversial, got a lot of attention from the media. So this does feel like one of these moments that probably in the press is going to be coming back again and again of, oh, Trump, the dinner, the meme coin. So we have some people who were present at the dinner, including Justin Sun, of course, the number one holder, Kane, Sangrok O, Evgeny, who's been on the show, Matthew Leo, a bunch of other market maker types and Chinese investors and so on. Apparently the food was very bad. They complained of like Walmart steak and like some freeze-dried
the pictures looked horrible.
Potatoes.
The pictures looked like it was like microwaved.
Yeah, they said the food was trash and the speech was quote unquote bullshit. So this does seem like vindication of what we were claiming, which is that Trump doesn't give a shit about any of these people. And in a way, like the real story here is that Trump fucked over all these people. But
no. Justin Sun got his money worth. Justin Sun got his money's worth. The number of articles I saw that were like, this crypto billionaire going to the Trump dinner, like he easily got his value in free PR from just like showing up and taking pictures. And Justin loves that. So I'm not sure Justin was fucked over.
Does he need more PR? I feel like no one's gonna be like, oh, I've never heard of this.
Have you looked at? Did you look at his Twitter where he's like advertising this like Trump watch that he's like making? Yeah, Justin loves this shit. There's no way he doesn't.
I did not see the Trump watch, but
he bought a watch. He bought a watch and cufflink set from Trump by donating like $5 million or something to get a special president.
Justin is remember the Warren Buffett thing? He like loves this type of thing. I think Justin Sun probably got more utility out of this than
Anybody.
But
he
nobody even
lost here.
spoke to Trump. Like literally,
It doesn't matter. Justin Sun got. I literally saw
the coverage. I agree. Okay, he got a lot of free coverage.
Like every news agency had some like mysterious crypto billionaire who was once thought to not be able to step foot in the U.S. shows up to Trump dinner.
It does feel like you can't have it both ways. It can't be both. This is a vehicle for corruption, and Trump showed up and gave a speech and left. If anything, this is actually the better outcome. Like it would have been way worse if he had actually been giving people real face time, and this actually was a venue towards being able to whisper and sort of coerce the president. But yeah, like you buy the token and he gives you a bad steak and leaves. Like that just feels like you just got completely played.
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
that's the real corruption.
Yeah.
I think everyone sort of got what they wanted out of it, which is Trump is able to demonstrate to the crypto community that he cares, right? Enough to do something like this.
I don't know that he demonstrated that he cares. I mean, cares about what exactly?
Cares about the Trump token having some utility in some variety. Okay.
Okay, fine.
Right.
I mean, Justin Sun creates his own utility.
Exactly. And the crypto community that went there, I'm sure, clear-eyed and open-minded about what they were getting, right? I don't think anyone there was expecting that they were going to like smoke cigars with Trump and have a round of golf after.
You want to bring back Evgeny next week and interview him and ask him?
I guarantee you that's what people were imagining. Also, there was something about like a White House tour, and that did not happen, clearly.
Well, that's because people complained about the food and he just called it off.
Well, no, I think it's because it was fucking illegal because he's not allowed to profit from. Like that was originally in the description is that they were going to do that, and then they were like, no, never mind. We're not doing that. We're going to give you a self-guided tour of the public part of the White House, which you can already go to. You don't need anybody to give you permission to go there. So basically, he sort of realized that like, hey, what I'm offering is very illegal, and obviously a president cannot benefit from the office in that kind
emoluments is sometimes too hard of a word to spell for a president. So I get it.
Yeah. So long story short, the dinner itself was kind of a nothing burger. Literally in that they were fed almost
Wait. Can we should really get a guest to come on the show and walk us through the entire night.
I don't know that we want to spend more time on. I don't know that we want to spend more time on this.
Yeah, we don't need. It's not the whole story. It's not worthy.
But it'd be funny.
We're already getting blasted for the fact that every story we cover is already old news by the time it's on here.
Yeah, we're not the New York Times.
The chopping boomers strikes again.
I think at this point, we might need to change up the name at this point. But the thing is the way in which this story has metamorphosed into the press, because I think we were calling this for a while, is that anybody who's buying the Trump token actually thinking you're going to curry favor with the president is probably out of your mind, right? And like the reality is, okay, yeah, this stuff, Justin Sun, blah, blah, blah. But like Justin Sun, first of all, he's bought multiple things from Trump. He's bought World Trade Financial, and he's the single largest holder of Trump token. And remember, Richard Hart's case was also dropped, which means like it's not even clear he needed to do anything. Maybe he just would have just hung out and his case would have gotten dropped. So I think Justin Sun, regardless, he was just throwing money around. He has too much money that he knows what to do with. Clearly that he's all gotten through very legitimate means. And I think like the real story here, which is not the story that the press has picked up on, the story the press has picked up on is, okay, this is this orgy of corruption. And I agree it looks like that. The reality is that it's even worse, which is that there's no corruption here. The corruption is somewhere else. The corruption is not accessible to people who buy Trump token. Like the people who buy Trump token are the idiots who are getting played, and the real people who are playing in the corruption, there are grown-up channels for that. It's not buying meme coins.
It's a new Air Force One that costs hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right. Exactly. So that anyway. All right. I think that's as far as we're going to get on this Trump dinner story. But expect this to come back. There's probably going to be a lot more here. And my guess is that there will also be more stuff happening with Trump token. Somehow Trump token still seems to be holding on to quite a lot of its value, even though this seemed like the central thing. I can't imagine there's going to be another one of these dinners after everybody was so disappointed by the first. The other thing that was really funny about this is that there was a lot of stories about people who were present who, I think, Tom, you'd mentioned this before, were fully hedged. So they were holding the spot Trump token and they shorted the futures. And as a result, they had no delta exposure to Trump token. And so they ended up coming for the grand total of like a couple $1,000s in hedging costs or something like that. So relatively cheap way to get a crappy dinner with the president. Yeah.
None of us went.
None of us went, unfortunately. Okay. So moving on to other news. There's been a big story this week about Coinbase. Actually, last week about Coinbase, but it's kind of still ongoing as people are pulling at the threads. So, story about Coinbase. Brian Armstrong came out with a video saying that Coinbase had been basically held ransom. And what was this ransom? There were attackers who said, we have access to a bunch of customer data on Coinbase. If you do not pay us this big, juicy ransom, I believe it was on the order of $20 million, we are going to release this data into the internet. And Coinbase said, okay, you know what? Screw you. We are going to disclose that this thing happened, and we are going to instead offer a counter. Instead of paying the ransom, we're going to offer a bounty of $20 million to any information that can lead to the arrest and capture of these hackers. Okay, so the whole thing was immediately greeted with a lot of huzzah and like, oh my God, Coinbase so brave, what amazing counterplay. But as more and more data has come to light about what really happened, there's been more raised eyebrows about with this whole Coinbase insider breach. So the claim was that less than 1% of users overall were affected. No passwords, private keys, or funds were exposed. So this is purely a kind of data, KYC data, as well as customer data, like metadata leak. So basically they were able to bribe customer service agents, which I believe are mostly in India, and get access to their control panel, look up the accounts of people, and just kind of mess with them, especially when you get these calls that are like, hey, I'm a customer support agent at Coinbase. That's very likely what a lot of these things were pulling on from when they were able to access insider data.
Actually, can I ask a dumb question? People were posting all these pictures of Raj, one of the co-founders of Solana's KYC docs. Totally was that from this leak?
No.
No, that just happened. I mean, it's possible that the Coinbase.
I believe it was confirmed there was a different hack. No, I believe it was confirmed there was a different hack. There was a different hack that had his data.
Because it was like showing up on people's Instagrams who had gotten hacked or something. Like some rapper's Instagram got hacked.
Migos.
Migos.
Yeah.
They hacked Migos' Instagram, I guess, to broaden visibility.
Because this data is already on the dark web, right? So presumably this is already out there. So re-ransoming somebody, there would be no point in doing that. So apparently there was a phishing spike that happened a long time ago. At least $46 million was stolen in March. This hack supposedly was discovered a couple weeks ago, but apparently in one of the disclosures that was given, I believe in the state of Maine, which in the state of Maine, you have to disclose, you have to like publicly file some information about a breach. And when you do that, you have to show when the breach began. Apparently the breach began in December of last year. Is when this quote unquote breach began. And it was only very recently that this data actually, or this breach was disclosed to the public, or supposedly that Coinbase discovered it. However, there's at least some insinuation that maybe this was not true, because Coinbase recently changed the terms of service such that there's like changes in the way that arbitration works, and that like class actions are no longer allowed. So there's all these question marks about, hey, did Coinbase know about this for longer than they claimed? And there's claims also from Seal and from some of the white hats that have been working with this that they knew that this had been going on for quite a while, that there were a lot of script kiddies who had been dropping screenshots and demonstrating on the dark web that they had access to insider information at Coinbase. They had access to customer service panels, and they were able to go in and systematically call up Coinbase customers and demand, basically try to do some kind of social engineering to get them to give up information. So now, to be clear, all this is insinuation. Nothing is totally proven at this point, but there is proof that on January 11th, Coinbase fired 300 plus support staff at one of their customer service support sites in, I think it was India, and rotated to a new site, presumably because of something like this, of some kind of systematic stealing / bribery / something else going on. So a lot of the conversation about this has been around the regime of KYC to begin with, because the reason why this is all a problem is because the fact that companies like Coinbase, obviously Coinbase is not the only one. To be clear, this happened many, many times in the past, but Coinbase is particularly vulnerable because of the nature of crypto custody. But it's the nature of KYC in particular is that our KYC regime requires every single financial counterparty that you have to own your KYC data. And every single financial counterparty has that data duplicated. It doesn't live in one repository and everybody asks for it when they need to look at it. Literally everybody needs to have their own copy of your data. And so if any actor, whether it's a credit bureau, as has happened many times before, or a bank or any financial institution or Coinbase, every single one of them has your financial data and has your KYC data. And any single one of them, if they get popped, then that data is going back out there into the wild and into the hands of hackers. So we're now in a situation where many of the most high profile victims have their data out there swirling among attackers. What are you guys' thoughts on this story? It seems like for the most part, Wall Street was kind of ignoring it, and then it kind of thought, hey, maybe this is more serious than we thought. I don't know where things landed. I've been a little bit out of the loop, but Robert, why don't we get your quick reaction to this Coinbase hack story?
Yeah, so the hack is unfortunate because there's a lot of risk that has been put onto the users of Coinbase unnecessarily, right? There's been a huge increase in phishing and attack outreach to Coinbase customers. Whether or not people lose money, the annoyance and the threat has gone up to pretty much every single user impacted in this leak. So the cost is not just what's already been stolen. The cost is they've hoisted attackers onto a huge portion of their user base. And the information that's out there, it's not just KYC information. It was also Coinbase information. It was your trading history. It was your deposits and withdrawals, right? The users that were compromised in this, sophisticated attackers could sort rank them by, how much money they have and where they live, right? Like really scary stuff. Like the physical threat that's been created by this is significant. Almost guaranteedly, someone is going to get killed over this, right? If they haven't already.
It was funny that it happened the same week as someone was kidnapped and tortured in New York over
crypto. I mean, that was an Italian tourist,
I know it was totally different, but my point is like it was crazy how the timing was like almost the same day.
So I think the real harm of this is actually incredibly high, and I think it's a really, really, really unfortunate event to have occurred. And so much of Coinbase's value comes at the end of the day from trust, right? That they're not going to lose stuff that they're supposed to hold, right? The incredibly important information about their customers it's bad, right? As a user, it makes me feel really, really, really unhappy and really uncomfortable. So, I think they've handled the crisis comms well, but the fact that this happened in the first place is completely embarrassing. And, it really turns me off as a user. I think they can recover from this slowly, as all companies do to rebuild trust. It's bad.
Do you think there's like an alternative regime that we should be contemplating here, or like how does one stop this? Besides, okay,
Haseeb, have you not heard of our Lord and Savior WorldCoin?
I'm familiar with it, but that is not going to work for a financial.
No. I'm just kidding. But there is some irony that blockchains are built around, like in theory, could be private and do a lot of this stuff, but yet 99% of users of tokens lose their KYC docs.
Yeah, I agree that the KYC complex that's been created over decades of slow evolution sucks, right? It doesn't actually protect people. At this point, it jeopardizes people probably more than it helps them, right? There's now a surface area where hundreds of companies all have to protect your personal information. And they're not really in the business of IT security.
Yeah, it's only as secure as the weakest among all the companies you use.
And any company can join this fray of like being required through a whole variety of reasons, required to take everyone's personal data and hope that they can do a good job keeping it. And like, if Coinbase can't do it, why do you think that like everyone else in the supply chain can, right? And so, I do think
Tarun, you're muted.
It requires a bigger conversation about like, what's the point of all this anyway? And like, what's actually being achieved, and when do the costs outweigh the benefits?
I'm trying to remember. There actually was once an even crazier story that was like this, where it was like, I forget if it was Chinese or North Korean, but they made a fake KYC processing entity to get the data to go through them, so that then
really
they were like a third party consultant, and they did this for like small to medium sized crypto exchanges who didn't want to do their own.
Crazy.
And that was like how a bunch of keys were stolen from small exchanges. This was a while ago, but all I'm saying is, the KYC stuff is the most attackable system ever. And it's even more attackable with generative AI now. Like what I literally can be like, hey, make me a passport photo from this, from this picture. And like, so I feel like the KYC regime, I don't know how it breaks. I guess maybe, what are your predictions on like what happens to it in 5 years? Because clearly it's like fraying at the seams right now.
I mean, my prediction is that nothing changes and things just keep getting worse. Like, I don't give a lot of credit.
Thank you, Dr. Doom,
for seeing problems. It's just, I mean, it's been just 20 plus years of it just being like this. And I don't think the acceleration, like there may be like, okay, more and more passports are scannable, right? And they're purely digital and you can get some kind of the cryptographic, the chip, the RFC chip. You can just, use your NFC scanner and just be like, okay, cool, do this instead of actually sending us a photo of your passport. That clearly is going away because especially with generative AI, that's just trivial now to generate anything. So any kind of eyeballing it as the Sybil resistance mechanism
WorldCoin.
is
No, I'm
just
kidding.
WorldCoin.
not gonna survive.
We're not shilling WorldCoin.
Yeah. I just like to see Haseeb's facial expression when I mention WorldCoin.
I think the answer is that nothing changes for a really, really long time until it gets unbearably bad, and it's not.
But I think
bad.
unbearably bad is like next year.
I don't think it's next year.
Or
I don't think it's next
now.
year.
We might already be unbearably bad.
This is
I'm
not.
sure.
This is definitely not unbearably bad. This is not, like if you're not getting senators, then it's not unbearably bad.
Well, I agree with Tarun that very quickly people will start stealing the identity of senators and stuff using AI, right? Like you can generate almost anything you want at this point. There's enough models out there that
I agree, and I think that means that like the risk, the security systems around for these companies will adapt, but the laws will not adapt. The laws will not change for a long, long time until senators start getting their money stolen.
Well, that's a long arc of lobbying. Like you make an entity that purposely tries to steal a senator's identity to prove a point that they need to write a law.
Hold on, I did not. That is Tarun advocating that. I said nothing of the sort.
I think that was the implication I got from
the implication. I mean,
the implication you say.
Yeah, but I actually don't think that'll work because my hunch would be if a senator gets their identity stolen, they're going to blame the institution that leaked their data. They're not going to say the KYC in general is broken. They're going to say, Bank of America sucks. How could you?
It's very hard to remove rules in a democracy. It's kind of the way it works. Tom, what's your take?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, I do think hopefully we'll move to a system that relies more on cryptographic means of verifying identity soon, not a WorldCoin shell. More, hey, maybe we can actually use. I mean, there's like even ZK passport stuff today, but I agree. Like that is really going to be.
WorldCoin does have ZK passport.
All right. That's sort of the next step in kind of the existing.
This episode is sponsored by WorldCoin.
Yeah, right.
This episode is sponsored by Super.
This episode is sponsored by a company that none of the four of us invested in.
Hey, not too late. Not too late.
We'll take some free WorldCoin tokens though. If
I want Red Bulls, not WorldCoins. Come on.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
maybe an order.
We are sponsored, but we are the show formerly sponsored by Red Bull. Maybe someday again.
We just need to mention like F1 more or something. Then maybe we'll get Red Bull sponsors back.
I don't know if I can.
The chopping F1 block.
Okay. All right. Well,
that was a little strained.
All right, we're flagging here. We're flagging here. We got one more.
Okay, wait. We got to talk before.
To
I know we got a hard limit, so we got to talk about the most important topic of the week, which is James Wynn.
James Wynn.
Yes.
Oh,
yes. True. Finally.
Okay. I am not. All right. Okay. I've got a little write up here. I've not been following the story very closely, so I guess I'll just
Robert,
run through it.
you had
so.
Okay. Yeah. James Wynn, UK born trader. He got $6,000 in ETH from Alameda in 2020. He became an icon for his trading in Pepe, later accused of some pump and dumps and random meme coin tokens. In March 2025, he shifted over to Hyperliquid, deposited $6 million, and began high leverage trading with as much as 40x leverage. His peak P&L, he reached $87 million in profit, has paid over $2 million in fees. In May of 2025, he opened a $1.25 billion long position on Hyperliquid, lost a very small amount, $13 million after Trump's tariff shock, and then shorted BTC with another absolutely massive $1 billion position, lost another 13 to 15 million. Right now, his cumulative P&L has dropped to minus $13 million net after some losses.
Haseeb, about 13.
Haseeb, you're
still positive.
Haseeb, your YouTube crypto trader arc is coming through. The way you read that, you were like, you had.
In total, he's up $9 million.
In total, he's up $9 million. Okay, so this is notional.
Lifetime to date. Yeah, this is this is current information. Yeah,
that's crazy. Okay, so $13 million net.
Nine. It's nine now.
Current position. It's nine now. Okay, got it. So this guy is just moving markets. He's totally insane. He is captivating the world. Reminds me a little bit of the Polymarket trader, where
my favorite
world is focused on the P&L.
thing about him is that Suzu was like, this guy is irresponsible and taking too much leverage.
Yes, when Suzu is calling you out publicly for taking too much risk in your trading, okay, you know that you have gone too far. For Suzu to do this, Suzu is probably one of the most risk-seeking traders of all time. He blew up 3AC and lost billions of dollars of other people's money that was fraudulently borrowed / traded away. For Suzu to call you out and say you're too risky, this guy needs to look in the mirror and listen, because that is something. But to Haseeb's summary, which was phenomenal, the part that you missed was the Moonpig shilling. So he's also the creator of some stupid meme coin called Moonpig. And a lot of people believe that this is simply a marketing exercise for Moonpig.
What? How could this be a marketing exercise for a meme coin? How big is Moonpig?
Because all he does is tweet about it. All he does is tweet about Moonpig. And so one of the many sort of like half-joking conspiracy theories about this guy is that either A, he is one of the former FTX employees, B, this is actually not trading losses or gains at all, that he's using a mirror account that takes the opposite side of every one of the trades. And there was a really interesting tweet today by, I think it was like the Look On Chain account or something like that, that was like, look, we found an account that's like the exact mirror opposite of him. And
interesting.
yeah. And third is that, he's whatever he's making or losing, he's making more on the Moonpig meme coin that he owns a crazy amount of, that he's,
Hold on. How big is Moonpig?
Good question. Let's look it up.
I bet you this is going to be like the lowest market cap coin we've ever talked about on the show.
Moonpig?
Market cap is 64 million. It's not,
that's in the lowest. That's in the range of lowest market cap.
It trades 29 million a day. That's not nothing.
Right.
Not much, but
so the guy is crazy. On the classic chopping block, hinged to unhinged scale, he is very far out on the unhinged side.
Okay.
What if it turns out that the mirror account actually is his? Does that change your?
Yeah, then he's more hinged. Actually, then he starts to get into like just rational, manipulative tier. Yeah.
Yeah, this mirror account idea is fascinating because it is a very, very capital intensive way to run a marketing campaign, which is usually not the forte of meme coin boosters, is that they have a lot of money with which to market.
But the beauty of having a public order book, in the sense that it's on Hyperliquid, you can see everything, is that becomes the marketing. In fact, Suzu was one of the first, I feel like, in 2020 to really take advantage of this, where like he would just like publicly buy a ton of stuff on Suzu.eth, and you just see this like trail of people copying all the time, right? Like, and so I think there is some truth to this like social trading thing kind of working as marketing.
Becoming the single like bat signal for crypto Twitter, that is powerful. But you can't just like long and short Bitcoin. Like you have to actually do something with it besides be like the man of one token, right? If you're just like, okay, Moonpig all day long, fine. But if you're like, no, virtuals, this week is virtuals, and you buy virtuals and you like front run your own, like that would make sense as a way to monetize becoming the anointed one and having everybody paying attention to your account. But that doesn't seem like what he's doing. Like that's normally what I see when somebody becomes the main character. Like when you're Suzu, you're Ansem, you're whoever that everybody's copy trading. That's how you monetize that, is by making calls and being early and getting out early.
Well, everyone I know is following James Wynn, right?
I mean, he doubled his follower count from like 100,000 to 200,000 in a day. So
right, because for multiple reasons, right? Everyone's following him for different reasons. One is entertainment. It's insane to watch somebody.
That's me.
Yeah, like somebody trading $1 billion against like 20 million of equity is insane, right? Maximum absolute leverage. The second is I'm worried about Hyperliquid / blow up risk, right? Hyperliquid has been changing its rules of the platform to start to reduce margin as a function of size, because he's basically found a loophole in the risk management algorithm, right? And lastly, it's the people that are interested in how he moves markets. I mean, he's literally buying or selling $1 billion of Bitcoin publicly pretty often at this point. And, there's a lot of people trying to trade around him as someone who doesn't care about slippage. And he's just like, going long or short a yard of Bitcoin every time he feels like it. It's wild. And so, he's picked up a huge amount of visibility. A lot of people are rooting for him to blow up. A lot of people are rooting for him to make $100 million. I just can't wait
What
to
are you
see
guys
how it
rooting
ends.
for him to do?
I'm rooting for him to demonstrate the failure of risk controls of an exchange that lets you trade $1 billion.
You want him to basically blow up Hyperliquid.
Not to blow up Hyperliquid. No. But for everyone to learn from this, right? Like, I actually hope it leads to lessons for all of the analysts to say, like, okay, this is where the risk controls were inadequate, and this is how to improve them, not just for Hyperliquid, but for the ecosystem at large. This guy's trouble. He's a stress test.
Tarun, what are you rooting for?
I'm long entertainment, and like this guy is like this.
But what's
guy
the
is,
most entertaining outcome is the question.
I think an HLP blow up that then somehow gets covered by hype getting like, like some type of like some part of the system
He's just
blows
trading
up.
Bitcoin, right? If he's just doing Bitcoin, is HLP on the other side of Bitcoin?
Not in sufficient size, yeah. But I meant you asked what outcome. I'm just saying, like I
Okay,
don't care what trades he's doing per se. I'm just It would be funny if like HLP kind of blew up because like the HLP liquidator vault actually is way smaller than the overall HLP vault, and that might not be sufficient size. I think it was like 8 million or something. So like it could be hard.
Although there's a lot of people. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like there's like, what's the equity shortfall that could occur, and how much demand is there to buy or sell around this guy? He was partially liquidated last night. Like, also, like, FYI, he was partially liquidated. Like, literally, the price hit his actual liquidation price by like a millimeter, right? And he was partially liquidated, and the market handled it quite well.
I think it would just be funny to see another version of this, but then also basically see a decentralized exchange recover from such a thing very quickly. Because like in centralized exchange lands, you've definitely had this thing where like users have figured out how to manipulate the liquidation engine. FTX obviously being very famous for the mobile coin incident amongst others. But this has happened in multiple exchanges. And how they recover from that is like a sign of how windy the exchange is, in my opinion. And I think like if Hyperliquid can prove they can recover from that, then it's like it has cemented its position for a long time.
Fair enough. Tom, what are you rooting for?
I just love to watch a man lose $80 million on a Monday night, But that's entertainment.
That's what you like,
as Tarun say.
So you want to see him lose?
If he made 80 mil too, it'd be great. But we just love the thrill of it.
Any giant win or giant losses.
Yeah, it has to just be big. That's all that matters.
All right, fine. I'll say before we wrap, I will just say I'm hoping that we don't have to keep talking about this for multiple weeks because I think the thing that I'm getting tired of is these recurring stories that we come back to week over week. But we'll see. He might be.
I hope James Wynn stays a story for.
You think you hope he stays the story? All right, fine. Yeah. Okay, we got to wrap. Thanks everybody. We'll be back next week. See you all.
That's good. See ya.